He was the youngest heavyweight boxing champion in history, earning hundreds of millions of dollars, and being feared by everyone in the ring. Now, imagine losing it all: your money, your reputation, and even your freedom. This is the story of Mike Tyson, a man who went from unstoppable champion to public downfall, only to rise again in an unexpected way. Mike Tyson was not just a boxer, he was a force of nature. With unmatched power and speed, he dominated his opponents in seconds. But outside the ring, his battles were even greater. From a troubled childhood filled with crime to the bright lights of Las Vegas, from prison to financial ruin, and finally to redemption, his life is one of the most dramatic stories in sports history. Mike Tyson's name is legendary in the world of boxing. Known as Iron Mike, he was one of the most feared and celebrated fighters ever. He became the youngest heavyweight champion at just 20 years old, knocking out opponents with brutal efficiency. But beyond his power, his life was filled with controversy, struggles, and an incredible journey of transformation. His story is a lesson in resilience, self-destruction, and rebirth. Whether you admire him or criticize him, there is no denying that his journey is unforgettable. If you want to improve your English while learning about the lives of extraordinary people, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let's dive into the unbelievable story of Mike Tyson. The sound of sirens filled the air in Brooklyn. Crime was everywhere, and for many kids, breaking the law wasn't a choice, it was survival. Mike Tyson grew up in this world, learning early that life was a fight, and he was already losing. Michael Gerard Tyson was born on June 30, 1966, in one of New York's toughest neighborhoods. His father abandoned the family before Mike could even remember him. His mother, Lorna, struggled to raise her children alone. They moved often, sometimes living in abandoned buildings. There was never enough food, never enough money, and never any sense of security. Violence was a part of everyday life. At school, Mike was an easy target. He was small, quiet, and had a high-pitched voice. Other kids bullied him, stole from him, and beat him up. But something inside him started to change. He realized that if he wanted respect, he had to take it. By the time he was 10, he had learned how to fight back. Soon, he became the one people feared. By the age of 13, Tyson had been arrested almost 40 times. He was no longer just a troubled kid, he was on the fast track to prison. But fate had other plans. He was sent to a juvenile detention center, where he met Bobby Stewart, a former boxer who worked as a counselor. Stewart noticed something unusual about Tyson. He had an incredible natural ability for fighting. His punches were stronger than most grown men's. His speed and reflexes were unreal. He had the potential to be great. Stewart introduced Tyson to a man who would change his life forever, Cus D'Amato. Cus wasn't just a boxing trainer, he was a visionary. He believed that boxing was not just about strength, it was about strategy, discipline, and mental toughness. He had trained world champions before, but when he saw Tyson, he knew he had found something special. Cus took Tyson under his wing, not just as a student, but as a son. He brought the young fighter into his home, gave him structure, and taught him the art of boxing. Tyson trained every day with relentless focus. Every punch he threw carried years of anger and frustration. He wasn't just learning how to fight, he was learning how to win. A storm was coming, and soon, the boxing world would know his name. Mike Tyson trained like a man possessed. Every morning, he woke up before sunrise and ran for miles. Every afternoon, he spent hours in the gym, perfecting his punches, dodging invisible opponents, and pushing his body to its limits. 'Cause D'Amato had given him a purpose, and Tyson embraced it completely. Boxing was no longer just a sport, it was his escape, his salvation, his only path forward. At the age of 16, Tyson suffered a devastating loss. Lorna, his mother, passed away. Despite their complicated relationship, she had been the only constant presence in his life. Now, she was gone. Cuz took full legal guardianship of Tyson, but nothing could fill the void left by his mother's death. The only way he knew how to deal with pain was through fighting. And so, he fought harder. Tyson's amateur career was explosive. He dominated his opponents with an intensity rarely seen in the sport. His combination of power, speed, and aggression was terrifying. He didn't just beat his opponents, he demolished them. By the time he turned 18, he was ready to go professional. His first professional fight came in March 1985. His opponent, Hector Mercedes, barely lasted a round. Tyson knocked him out in less than 2 minutes. It was just the beginning. Over the next year, he won fight after fight, most of them ending in brutal knockouts. No one could stand against him. He moved like a heavyweight but struck with the speed of a lightweight. Every punch was thrown with bad intentions. By the end of 1985, Tyson had a record of 15 wins and 0 losses. All but one of those victories came by knockout. The boxing world had taken notice. A young fighter this powerful, this dominant, was something special. Commentators started calling him Iron Mike. But Tyson wasn't interested in words. He had one goal, to become the youngest heavyweight champion in history. In 1986, the opportunity came. The reigning WBC heavyweight champion, Trevor Berbick, agreed to fight him. Berbick was experienced, but Tyson didn't care. He stepped into the ring with the same cold, ruthless focus he had carried since his days on the streets. The fight was over in 2 rounds. Tyson became the youngest heavyweight champion ever at just 20 years old. The world had a new king. Mike Tyson was not just a champion, he was a phenomenon. The moment he won the title, he became the most feared fighter in the world. He wasn't just beating opponents, he was destroying them. His fights were short, brutal, and unforgettable. Fans loved him. His opponents dreaded him. The boxing world had never seen anything like him. Tyson didn't just rely on his incredible power. His defense was just as impressive. He used a unique style called the peekaboo technique, taught by D'Amato. He moved his head constantly, slipping punches and countering with explosive speed. Opponents would swing at him, only to find themselves knocked out seconds later. He was fast, aggressive, and completely relentless. After defeating Trevor Berbick, Tyson continued his dominance. In 1987, He took on James Bonecrusher Smith and won the WBA heavyweight title. Later that year, he defeated Tony Tucker, adding the IBF belt to his collection. He was now the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. At just 21 years old, he had reached the top of boxing. The world couldn't get enough of him. He was on magazine covers, in commercials, and on talk shows. He had money, fame, and power. But outside the ring, things were starting to spiral out of control. With Cus D'Amato gone, Tyson lacked the guidance he desperately needed. He was surrounded by people who wanted his money more than his success. His personal life became chaotic. He spent millions on luxury cars, jewelry, and extravagant parties. He married actress Robin Givens in 1988, but the relationship was troubled from the start. Arguments, accusations, and rumors followed them everywhere. Despite the distractions, Tyson continued to dominate in the ring. In June 1988, he faced Michael Spinks, a fighter many believed could challenge him. The fight lasted just 91 seconds. Tyson knocked Spinks out in one of the most iconic moments in boxing history. He was untouchable. But success was a dangerous thing for Mike Tyson. He had climbed to the top faster than anyone expected. The problem was, he didn't know how to stay there. Mike Tyson had everything: fame, fortune, and absolute dominance in the ring. But success came at a price. Without Cus D'Amato's guidance, his life outside boxing became chaotic. He was reckless with money, surrounded by the wrong people, and constantly making headlines for all the wrong reasons. His marriage to Robin Givens turned into a public disaster. Accusations of domestic violence and explosive arguments filled the tabloids. His personal life was spiraling, and it wouldn't take long for his career to follow the same path. In 1990, Tyson stepped into the ring against James "Buster" Douglas, a fighter few believed had a chance. Tyson had barely trained. He was overconfident, distracted, and unprepared. Douglas, on the other hand, had nothing to lose. What happened that night shocked the world. In the 10th round, Douglas landed a devastating combination. Tyson hit the canvas, struggling to find his mouthpiece. For the first time in his career, he was counted out. The unbeatable champion had fallen. The loss should have been a wake-up call, but instead, Tyson's life continued its downward spiral. The following years were filled with more controversy, reckless spending, and legal troubles. Then, in 1992, the biggest scandal of his life hit. He was convicted of rape and sentenced to 6 years in prison. The boxing world was stunned. The most feared man in sports was now behind bars. In prison, Tyson struggled with reality. The man who once had everything was now locked in a cell, powerless. He converted to Islam, studied philosophy, and tried to find peace. After serving 3 years, he was released in 1995. The world watched, wondering if he could reclaim his throne. But the Tyson who walked out of prison was not the same man who had once ruled the ring. When Mike Tyson walked out of prison in 1995, the world was ready to see if he could reclaim his place as the king of boxing. He was older, but the aura of invincibility still surrounded him. His return to the ring was explosive. He won his first 2 comeback fights by knockout, showing flashes of the power and aggression that had once made him the most feared man in the sport. In 1996, he regained the WBC heavyweight title by defeating Frank Bruno and added the WBA title after knocking out Bruce Seldon. It seemed like the Tyson era was back. But there was one man standing in his way: Evander Holyfield. Holyfield was not intimidated by Tyson. He had been waiting for this fight for years. In November 1996, the two finally faced off. Many expected Tyson to overwhelm his opponent, but Holyfield had a plan. He stayed calm, absorbed Tyson's punches, and slowly took control of the fight. In the 11th round, the referee stopped the fight. Holyfield had done the impossible. He had beaten Mike Tyson. Tyson demanded a rematch, and the world got one of the most infamous fights in boxing history. The rematch took place in June 1997. The fight started with both men attacking aggressively, but Holyfield once again took control. Tyson, frustrated and unable to dominate, did something unthinkable. In the 3rd round, he bit Holyfield's ear. The referee warned him, but moments later, Tyson bit his opponent again, taking a piece of his ear. Chaos erupted. The fight was stopped, and Tyson was disqualified. The incident shocked the world. Tyson, once a symbol of raw power and dominance, had now become the villain. The Boxing Commission revoked his license, and his career seemed to be over. Mike Tyson was no longer just a boxer, he was a symbol of controversy. The ear-biting incident had turned him into a global spectacle. His boxing license was revoked, and his reputation was in ruins. But Tyson wasn't ready to walk away. After a year of suspension, he was allowed to fight again. The sport that had once made him unstoppable now seemed to be slipping from his grasp. He returned to the ring in 1999, but something had changed. His punches were still powerful, but the hunger, the precision, the aura of invincibility were gone. He won a few fights, but the dominance he once had was missing. Then, in 2002, he stepped into the ring against Lennox Lewis for the heavyweight championship. It was supposed to be his chance at redemption, but Lewis was too strong, too skilled, and too disciplined. Tyson was knocked out in the 8th round. After that loss, Tyson fought a few more times, but it was clear his time was over. He no longer trained the same way, no longer had the same drive. In 2005, after losing to Kevin McBride, he announced his retirement. The boxer who once struck fear into the hearts of his opponents was now a shadow of his former self. His career had reached its final round. Without boxing, Tyson's life spiraled again. He faced financial ruin, declaring bankruptcy despite earning hundreds of millions of dollars in his career. The mansions, the cars, the extravagant lifestyle, everything was gone. His personal life was unstable, and for a while, he seemed completely lost. But just when the world thought Mike Tyson's story was over, he surprised everyone again. Mike Tyson had spent years being defined by his mistakes. The world saw him as a fallen champion, a man who had everything and lost it all. But Tyson was not ready to disappear. Instead, he began a slow journey towards something he had never truly known: peace. He started by confronting his past. He spoke openly about his struggles, his regrets, and his failures. He admitted his mistakes and stopped blaming others for his downfall. He worked on his health, overcame substance abuse, and found stability in his personal life. In 2009, he married Lakia Spicer, a woman who helped bring balance to his chaotic world. For the first time, Tyson seemed to be at peace with himself. His return to the public eye came in an unexpected way. In 2009, he appeared in the hit movie The Hangover, playing a hilarious version of himself. Fans loved it. The role introduced him to a new generation, and suddenly, the world saw him in a different light, not as a monster, but as a man who had been through it all and survived. Tyson embraced this new chapter. He launched a one-man show, Mike Tyson, Undisputed Truth, where he told his life story with humor and honesty. The show was a success, leading to more opportunities in television, film, and even business. He started a podcast, Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson, where he interviewed celebrities, athletes, and thinkers, offering wisdom no one expected from a former heavyweight champion. One of the biggest surprises came in 2020 when Tyson, at the age of 54, announced he would return to the ring for an exhibition match against Roy Jones Jr. The fight wasn't about titles or money, it was about proving that he still had the warrior spirit. When he stepped into the ring, the world saw flashes of the old Tyson. He was no longer the unstoppable force of his youth, but he was still a fighter, still a legend. Mike Tyson's legacy is more than just his victories or his controversies. He was a force of nature, a man who reached the highest peaks and fell to the lowest depths. But in the end, he did something many never expected. He found redemption. Mike Tyson's story is one of the most incredible in sports history. He was a kid from the streets who became the most feared boxer in the world. He had everything, fame, fortune, and power, but lost it all through bad decisions, controversy, and self-destruction. Yet, his story did not end in tragedy. Unlike many fallen champions, Tyson found a way to rebuild his life. His journey teaches us that success can be lost in an instant, but redemption is always possible. Tyson showed that no matter how far someone falls, there is always a chance to rise again. His life is proof that mistakes do not define a person, what they do after those mistakes does. What do you think about Mike Tyson's story? Do you see him as a legend, a cautionary tale, or both? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories. See you in the next one.